The transport shuttle landed without ceremony in the dust outside Owen Carter's workshop. He wiped grease from his hands and squinted at the sleek Vorath vessel, its purple hull gleaming under the colony's twin suns. A hatch hissed open, and a tall alien dignitary stepped out, his scaled face twisted in what might have been amusement or contempt. "Human mechanic Owen Carter," the Vorath announced, his translator crackling. "His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Corvan XV, sends you a gift in recognition of your colony's recent petition for trade alliance." Owen's stomach sank. The petition had been formal, serious. It didn't sound promising. The dignitary gestured, and the smaller figure emerged from the shuttle. A chubby, fluffy creature with enormous golden eyes and soft gray fur stumbled down the ramp. She couldn't have been more than 3 feet tall, with rounded ears and a tail that dragged behind her. She looked at Owen with unmistakable curiosity. "This is Mira," the Vorath said, his tone dripping with mockery. "May she bring you the companionship your kind deserves." Before Owen could respond, the shuttle lifted off, leaving him alone with a small alien cub in a cloud of red dust. Mira sneezed, then looked up at him with those impossibly large eyes. Owen knelt down slowly. "Hey there," he said softly. "I guess you're stuck with me." She tilted her head, studying him. Then she reached out one small paw and touched his hand. Something in his chest, something that had been tight and cold for the 3 years he'd worked alone on this frontier colony, began to thaw. The first day, Owen expected Mira to be frightened or hostile. Instead, she followed him everywhere. When he returned to his workshop to finish repairing a mining drill, she trotted behind him, her tail swishing with interest. When he climbed under the machinery, she peered down at him from above. When he reached for a wrench, she picked it up in her small paws and offered it to him. Owen stared at her in surprise. "You understand tools?" Mira made a soft chirping sound and pointed at the plasma welder. That's next," Owen said slowly. "You're a smart one, aren't you?" Over the following weeks, their routine became natural. Mira learned quickly, memorizing where each tool belonged and anticipating what Owen needed. She watched everything he did with intense focus, sometimes tracing the machinery with her paws as if trying to understand its inner workings. Owen started talking to her as he worked, explaining the principles of fusion cores and gravitational stabilizers. He didn't expect her to understand, but it felt good to have someone there, someone who listened. One evening, as he calibrated a sensor array, Mira picked up his datapad and began tapping the screen. Owen glanced over and froze. She was adjusting the calibration settings, correcting an error he'd made in the frequency modulation. "Mira," he breathed, "do you actually understand this?" She looked at him and made a complex series of chirps and trills. Her paw moved across the datapad, pulling up a schematic and highlighting a weak point in the power distribution. Owen sat down hard on his workbench. "They said you were He laughed bitterly. "You're smarter than half the engineers I trained with." Mira climbed into his lap, something she'd started doing when he seemed upset. Owen wrapped his arms around her soft, warm body and realized with sudden clarity that he loved this strange little creature. She wasn't a gift or an insult. She was family. He didn't know that across the system, on a monitoring station hidden in an asteroid field, Vorath intelligence officers were watching recordings of Owen's workshop with growing alarm. The transmission reached Emperor Corvan's throne room 3 days later. The massive Vorath ruler watched the footage in silence, his clawed hands gripping the armrests of his throne hard enough to leave marks. "Explain this to me again," he hissed at his trembling advisor. "The human mechanic is teaching my daughter engineering?" "Yes, Your Majesty." "And she appears to be thriving. The human treats her with genuine affection. He's given her access to his tools, his knowledge, his living quarters." Corvan's tail lashed in fury. "I sent her as mockery, to show the humans their place, to demonstrate that they're worthy of nothing more than a child's companion." His voice rose to a roar. "And this primitive dares to treat my own bloodline like she belongs to him? The human doesn't know she's your daughter, Your Majesty. He believes she's simply an alien cub. That changes nothing." Corvan slammed his fist down. "I want her back. Immediately. Send a retrieval team." The advisor hesitated. "Your Majesty, there's a complication." Under Vorath law, no member of the royal family can be moved against their will once they've reached the age of choosing. Princess Mira turned 3 last month. Corvin's eyes narrowed. Then we make her choose. The Vorath retrieval team arrived in force. 3 warships and a diplomatic contingent. Owen saw them coming on his long-range scanners and felt his blood run cold. Mira was in the workshop, carefully soldering a circuit board under his supervision. She looked up when she heard his sharp intake of breath. We've got company, Owen said quietly. Big company. The lead Vorath commander's face appeared on Owen's communication screen. Human Owen Carter, you possess property of the Vorath Empire. Surrender the cub Mira immediately and your colony will be spared. Owen looked at Mira. She had dropped her tools and was staring at the screen with an expression he'd never seen before. Fear, yes, but also something else. Resignation. She's not property, Owen said firmly, and I'm not handing her over to anyone. You don't understand what you're protecting, the commander said. That cub is Princess Mira, daughter of Emperor Corvin. She was placed with you as punishment and mockery. She belongs with her people. Owen's mind reeled, but his resolve didn't waver. He looked down at Mira. Is that true? She nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. Do you want to go back? Mira made a sound he'd never heard before. A desperate, broken trill. She wrapped her arms around his leg and shook her head violently. Owen turned back to the screen. You heard her. She stays. You have 1 hour to comply, the commander said coldly. After that, we will take her by force. The colony went into emergency lockdown. Owen and the other mechanics worked frantically, converting mining lasers into weapons and reinforcing the settlement's shields. It wouldn't be enough against 3 warships, but they had to try. Mira sat in the workshop, her small paws trembling as she worked on a datapad. Owen had tried to send her to the shelters with the other civilians, but she'd refused to leave his side. Mira, he said gently, kneeling beside her, I need you to be safe, please. She showed him the datapad. On it was a complex schematic of Vorath ship systems, along with a series of command codes. Owen's eyes widened. Are those access codes? Mira nodded. She pointed to herself, then to the codes, then to the Vorath ships on his scanner display. You can shut them down, Owen whispered. You have royal override authority. She chirped affirmatively, but her expression was anguished. She pulled up a new screen, showing Vorath law. Owen's translator struggled with the formal text, but he got the gist. Using royal codes against the Empire was treason. Renouncing the throne was permanent. You'd give up everything, Owen said softly. Your birthright, your family, your entire future as an empress. Mira looked at him with those huge golden eyes. Then she reached up and touched his face with one soft paw. She made a sound that needed no translation. You're my family now. Owen felt tears burning in his eyes. Okay, he said hoarsely. Okay, we do this together. The Vorath ships opened fire precisely 1 hour later. The colony's shields flared and buckled under the assault. Owen held Mira in his lap as she worked, her small claws flying across the datapad. Entering royal override codes now, Owen muttered, helping her navigate the interface, transmitting on imperial frequency. Mira's voice emerged from the workshop's communication system, amplified and translated. Her words rang out across all Vorath channels, broadcast to the attacking fleet and beyond. I am Princess Mira of the Vorath Empire. I hereby invoke my right of choosing. I renounce all claim to the imperial throne. I dissolve my bonds to the royal family. I choose to remain with Owen Carter of humanity, who has shown me more honor and kindness than I ever knew in the palace. By ancient law, you cannot touch me. By my own will, I am no longer your princess. I am free. Her codes activated. 2 of the 3 Vorath warships went dark, their systems locked by royal override. The 3rd ship, the commander's flagship, remained operational but held its fire. On the bridge, the Vorath commander stood frozen, his face pale. Around him, his crew stared in shock at the legal implications of what they'd just witnessed. A royal renunciation, broadcast across imperial networks. irreversible, binding, and worse. The Emperor's own daughter had chosen humans over the Empire. The commander's communication screen lit up with an incoming transmission from the throne world. Emperor Corvin's face appeared, twisted with rage and humiliation. "Withdraw," the Emperor hissed. "Immediately." "But your Majesty, my daughter has made her choice clear to the entire galaxy. If we take her now, we violate our own sacred laws. We become oath-breakers. Withdraw and never speak of this again." The warships retreated, leaving the colony untouched. Owen held Mira tightly as they watched the Vorath vessels disappear into the darkness between stars. "You gave up an empire," Owen whispered. Mira chirped softly and snuggled closer against his chest. Her meaning was clear. She'd gained something better. In the days that followed, the story spread across the galaxy faster than lightspeed communications. The Vorath Emperor, who'd sent his daughter as an insult, only to have her choose humanity. The lonely mechanic, who treated an alien princess with more love than her own father. Other species took notice. If humans could earn that kind of loyalty from a Vorath royal, perhaps they weren't the primitives the Empire claimed. Trade delegations began arriving at the colony, not as jokes or tests, but as genuine opportunities. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had passed a test the Vorath never intended to set. Owen's workshop became famous, but the daily routine didn't change much. Each morning, Mira would wake up in her small bed next to his, chirp a greeting, and follow him to the workshop. She'd hand him tools, suggest improvements to his designs, and occasionally climb into his lap when she needed reassurance that this was real, that she was truly home. One evening, as they worked together on a new fusion regulator design, Owen paused to look at her. This chubby, brilliant, brave little person who'd given up everything for a chance at belonging. "I love you, kid," he said quietly. "You know that, right?" Mira looked up at him and made the soft, purring sound that meant she was happy. She pointed to the schematic on the screen, then to herself, then to Owen. A simple message. "We'd built this together." "Yeah," Owen said, his throat tight with emotion. "We did. And we're going to build a lot more." Outside, the twin suns were setting, painting the workshop in shades of amber and gold. Somewhere across the stars, an emperor nursed his wounded pride. But here, in this small corner of the galaxy, a mechanic and a princess who'd found each other by accident were exactly where they belonged. Together, family, home.